Good morning. My name's Bridget and I'm the Vicar of the Good Shepherd and St Peter's in Lee. Now this summer, rather than going on a summer holiday, we decided that we would get a puppy instead. Here's what she looks like when we got her, and this is what she looks like now. Her name is Mabel, she's 16 weeks old and she's a golden retriever. And in fact, she's here in the background with me, so it's possible she may appear at any moment. Now, we already had an older dog, so we knew what it was like to be dog owners, but this is the first time we've had a puppy. And I have to say, it is a lot of hard work. If you or someone you know has recently got a puppy, then you probably know firsthand quite how challenging it can be. To start with, we had to get up in the middle of the night to take her out for a wee. Then she started waking at 5:30 in the morning, so we were up really early. We have to constantly supervise her, otherwise she digs holes in the lawn or chews the furniture. And of course she needs loads of time and focused energy in order to train her. I have to confess, there have been a few points where I have found myself feeling really tired, especially when I've been up in the night or up early in the morning and just thinking, gosh, this is so much work. I'm not sure I can stick with it. But then of course we know that a dog is for life, not just for lockdown. So actually we've made this commitment, we have to stick with it. I'm hoping that Mabel is going to help with the rest of this assembly, but we shall see. Now I suspect many of you were looking forward to getting back to school, to seeing friends, seeing teachers, getting out of the house, and maybe even using your brains again. Well, if you're anything like my teenagers, you were probably looking forward to it, but after a few weeks back at school, you may well be feeling tired now. In fact, you might be feeling really tired. Let's face it, school's pretty tiring at the best of times, but I think at the moment, after 6 months at home, it's really hard work. Perhaps you'd rather be staying at home and staying in bed than coming into school. Well, I was reflecting on that earlier this week and I was wondering, what can my experience of having a puppy teach us about having to stick with it when we're finding life quite hard? I know that one of your pastoral themes as a school this year is perseverance. So what can Mabel teach us about perseverance? Well, first of all, when we got Mabel to begin with, she was biting us an awful lot. In fact, if I get to the end of this assembly without being bitten, I will be staggered. But it felt a real problem, so I actually decided to call a dog trainer to ask for some help and advice. She came to see us and she gave some brilliant advice, some tips and tricks and tactics, and they've made a real difference. Not least, we have a really long lead that we put Mabel on if we need to keep her under control. But again, perhaps as you've come back to school, you're struggling a bit. Maybe you're finding some aspect of school pretty hard. Well, I wonder if there's someone that you can ask for help and advice. I know, for example, that my daughter has dyslexia and sometimes she finds that lessons just go a bit fast for her and she feels a bit left behind and a bit lost. So earlier this week, she emailed one of her teachers and she said, is it okay if I take a photograph of the whiteboard so I've got a record of what's happened during the lesson, then I can review it later. That was one small way of asking someone for some help to hopefully make a difference. So that's the first thing. The second thing that I've learned through having Mabel is that if you want to train a puppy, you need so many rewards to reward them for doing the right thing. So for example, if I want to teach Mabel to sit, when she sits, I then give her a treat, usually a bit of chicken. And she begins to learn that if she does the right thing, she gets a reward. Well, I think when you're finding life or school a bit hard, when you're feeling really tired and you've got to sit down again and do more homework, actually it can make a real difference if someone gives you a treat or a reward. Now, hopefully your teachers are rewarding you, praising you, giving you feedback and encouraging you, but actually it can be really helpful if parents encourage us as well. Occasionally I buy some Percy pigs for my kids, leave them in their bedrooms with a little card saying how proud I am of them or how well they're doing. That's my way of trying to encourage them and reward them to keep going. So that's the second thing. Treats and rewards make a big difference. And maybe sometimes as well, we need to give ourselves a little treat just to say well done. My third piece of advice is to think about the bigger picture. Hopefully Mabel is going to be part of our family for the next 10 years, maybe even 15 years. And although we've got to put a lot of work in now, hopefully it will pay off in the long run, because she'll grow into a lovely adult dog and we'll love having her as part of our family and make lots of happy memories together. But in the short term, it is hard work, so it's important to keep in mind the bigger picture. I think the same's true at school as well. Sometimes we can feel a bit weighed down by the amount of homework that we have to do, but actually it's good perhaps to stop and think about what our hopes are for the future, whether there's a particular career we want to pursue or a course we want to study. What ambitions do we have? Because sometimes keeping those goals in mind can help us to keep working in the present. So for example, my daughter's thinking about the idea of becoming a doctor. So when she's feeling a bit fed up having yet more science homework to do, that's the thing that is spurring her to keep going and to keep working hard. So remember the bigger picture. So those are 3 pieces of advice that I'd like to offer in terms of perseverance. The other thing that helps me to persevere when life is hard is my faith. Let me read you a few verses from the New Testament. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses, let us run with perseverance the race God has set before us. We do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus, the champion. Think of all the hostility he endured from people, then you won't become weary. Those verses use the image of a race as a picture of life. For me, one of the things that gives me strength when life is hard and when I need to stick with it is my faith. And for me, I draw that strength from the person of Jesus. He's someone who is an example to me and an inspiration to me, especially thinking about his own life and experience and the things that he went through. But as well as that, in those verses, it talks about a great cloud of witnesses. They're like the crowd at the race, cheering on the runners. And I think as a Christian, I draw strength from other Christians, people who are there to encourage you and tell you to keep going when life is tough. If you have a faith, then I hope your faith gives you strength. But if not, we can all still be part of that supportive crowd. We can all still encourage one another to keep going when life is hard. So if you're feeling tired at the moment, then I would say, I think that's normal and to be expected, and that's okay. But I hope you can find the things that you need to help you persevere and keep going. And if not, you can always have a little look at a cute puppy. Here's one right now, just to finish. Thanks for listening.